then the refund would not be done immediately. It is, carried forward up to the third tax period, up to after 3 months. If after 3 months you are still in that situation where GRA is owing you, then you can submit an application for a refund to be given. And the Commissioner General is obliged to give that return within 2 months, failing which the Commissioner General will now have to pay you interest on the amount that should have been refunded.
Will this not lead to some people doing some unscrupulous businesses? In other words, not giving you a correct accounting scenario.
Malik,
how would you check on that?
Malik, that is very true. So that is why VAT requires strengthening your administration capacity. You must have a very strong, enforcement capacity. You must have a very strong audit capacity. So in other words, the businesses, we are not going to leave them on their own. The tax system is self-assessment based. The onus is on the taxpayers to file their returns and tell us this is their liability. That's how our system works. It's not us doing that. They would do that and come and say, this is what I am supposed to pay. And on the basis of that, internally, we can subject that to audit based on the kind of risks that are presented. Because if you are in a line of business, you are not there alone. So if what you are giving us is fundamentally, different from what others are giving, it sends the signal that there is something that is going on, something wrong. So in other words, it all comes back to now GRA increasing its, level of preparedness in terms of dealing with situations like that. We should expect them, definitely.
This is the interview. My guest is S.I. Jallo. He's just been promoted to Commissioner Domestic Tax at the Gambia Revenue Authority, and before them he was Director Technical Service and VAT Project Manager. He still is VAT Project Manager. Esa, to send a very strong message to unscrupulous practices, I'm sure the Gambia Revenue Authority will put some stringent measures, even effecting some fines to make sure that people do not go about messing up with government's revenue.
Malik, I think that is very important. I first want to start by saying this. Taxation or paying tax is one of the most noble things that any citizen can do. It is not money that disappears in the air. Because if you turn around, there are many things that you see which you yourself did not provide directly. For instance, people are enjoying GRTs. The payment of the salaries of GRTs, the equipment that you have here, is provided by government. If government did not get the money, how can they provide this kind of essential services for the citizens? There is policing going on. The military is around. There are health services going on. We have seen the improvements in the roads. So we have to recognize the fact that if we don't pay our taxes, we are constraining government in terms of its ability to provide all these kind of things that are very essential to our survival, that are very essential to our welfare. So that is how noble the payment of tax is. So that is why, I want to appeal. I want to use this interview to appeal to all Gambian taxpayers to tell them that definitely for us, it is about using our offices to help them in as much as we can to make sure that we facilitate their compliance. Our doors are open. Let them come forward if they have any problems. We will also intensify our engagements in terms of physically visiting them wherever they are to talk to them about their issues, to see how we can help. We understand that this is a very difficult thing. It's a difficult job, so we have to help each other. We have to complement each other. So my message to the Gambian taxpayers is this. We will provide all the necessary facilities, all the necessary services to, facilitate your compliance. But in return, we would expect you to do your utmost best to make sure that you pay your taxes on time. You make sure that, all other obligations that have to do with the payment of taxes are respected. Keep proper records. Keeping of proper records is very important. We are appealing to all taxpayers to make sure that, we start developing the culture of keeping records. We have a very poor culture of keeping records in this country. And that is, a serious constraint in terms of really administering, taxes in this country. I know we have a part to play, a role to play in this by, helping them, work on capacity problems that they have, particularly for the smaller ones. So we'll do whatever we can in our own way. But I am appealing to all taxpayers that please, develop this culture of voluntary tax compliance. You know that the obligation will always be there for you. Whether you pay it now or later, sooner or later we will come to find out, and you will not only pay what you were supposed to pay ideally if you had paid on time. You will pay penalties, you will pay interest. The other thing is we are not going to take it lightly. If we had done all the necessary things to facilitate your compliance and you fail to come forward, definitely the full force of the law will now be applied.
Tax is based on self-assessment. What is self-assessment?
You know, the way our tax system is operating, it's like the onus is on the taxpayers. Malik, if you are in a taxable activity, we are expecting you, for instance, if you have an income tax return to file, we are expecting you at the end of every quarter to prepare your returns and come and pay your tax. And the deadline is also the 15th day of the month following the end of the quarter. Like the first quarter ends in March, by the 15th of April, you will be required to file a return. So self-assessment is just you preparing a return, reflecting all your activities and showing what your liability is for the period, and you come and settle it with us.
I'm sure you'll be giving out certain forms. Will that be in place? What kind of forms will you be giving to this business?
The returns, basically, because that is what will enable them to do these assessments that we are talking about. So we'll do our utmost best to make sure that they are always available, to make sure that, they provide us with the necessary information.
What information will be supplied? What do we expect to be on the tax return forms?
Well, basically, just generally to summarize this, it would contain all the necessary information that would enable us to establish the liability of the taxpayer, including the name of the taxpayer, the location of the taxpayer, the TIN number of the taxpayer, what he has realized in terms of income during the period. All the information that would enable us arrive at the correct liability of the taxpayer. That is what it does. The return is just a replica of what you have, this immigration form. If you are going to apply for a passport, the form is done in such a way that it provides all the information to enable the immigration authorities to be able to see whether you are eligible for a passport or not. A return also does exactly that, just to establish the liability of the taxpayer.
Now, I'm sure we have a category of rates. I mean, there are some who will be exempted from paying VAT. Can we look at that?
Yes, for VAT, basically there are two rates. The standard rate, which has to do with all goods and services that are sold, within the country, and goods that are imported. For them, they attract a rate of 15%.